you have a belief about like the multiverse, or if there's life in other planets, other galaxies?
Um, okay, so there's two different questions. Let me start with the multiverse,
All
right?
right.
The multiverse is a theory which has really been propounded because people didn't like the fact that um, in the universe, right, that there is how did life come about, right? And it's so unlikely for life to happen, right? The probability against it is so dramatic. I said, well, if you have an infinite number of universes, in some universe, some combination of stuff would get us life, right? That's really the primary reasoning for the multiverse, right? I like some evidence. I mean, that's fine as a theory, but I want to see some evidence to say there is a multiverse. Right now, all we know about the multiverse is we have no way to see it or connect to it. It's like, well, then, to me, that's not a scientific theory, right? It's something to speculate about for sure, but I'd like to see some evidence on the multiverse side of it, right? So that's why I think I'm not a huge fan of multiverses. Now, in terms of life on other planets, right? Nothing biblically says you shouldn't have life on other planets, right? God can create life anywhere He wants to. Certainly, a lot of the people on the Carl Sagan, for example, some of the cosmologists and so on, and even evolutionary biologists felt, if you have water, you have some chemicals, boom, out of nowhere, life will just come about, which was really all Darwin's explanation also about the first living cell, right? He said, if and oh, what a big if, you had this big chemical and you put a bunch of energy through it, boom, this might happen, right? Well, nobody's proved that it can happen, but, that was his theory. So that could happen, you could argue, in any of the planets or any of the other galaxies, right? The problem is we've not been able to create life on Earth trying those kind of things in labs to say, okay, we can put a bunch of chemicals, we can drive a bunch of energy through it, let's see if we can create life. Well, nobody's been able to create anything, And so that's a challenge. But the other challenge is the Earth is in a very special place in the sense that, you have Jupiter at just the right size and just the right distance to almost act like a shield to the Earth from all the things which could come in from outer space into Earth. The temperatures are ideal, right? I mean, if you get to Venus, it's too hot. You go to Mars, it's too cold, right? In either place can life exist. So, and then you look at our sun, and our sun is actually a very high, I would say, in consistency of the light output it puts out. If the light output goes up and down, then the temperatures on the Earth would go up and down like crazy, right? And then it would have been very difficult for life to survive, right? So now we start looking at all the other places, as far as we can see in the galaxy, where the planet is in just the right spot, where the light input is consistent, there are none of these nova stars and things blowing up around you and ultraviolet radiation around you and all of these things. And we found only one place, Earth, right? So we're back to saying, at this point in time, simply looking at the conditions you need for life to exist, it seems to be we have not found any other place similar to Earth, right? So can there be life? I think there can be, but have we found anything? I think that's been a real challenge.
Right, or at least the government's not telling anyone about it.
Oh, the government's not telling us.
What do you think the purpose of our exploration and, things like getting further into space and becoming more quote unquote advanced scientifically, like what is the point of that effort that we're going through?
It's a great question. I think the effort is the same one that Isaac Newton had when he first started off, which was to understand the character of God, right? Who is God? How has He created us, right? And understanding that, I think, continues to say the purpose. So as we go deeper into space, for example, if you look at the light from the sun, that's, I don't know, 7 minutes away or 8 minutes away or so on, right? So we're looking at something which was 8 minutes ago, right? As we go further into the galaxy, now we are dealing with light years. The nearest star is 4 light years away, if I remember correctly. And then you continue on. So really what we're looking at is time backwards when we look at the skies, right? The farther the light comes from, then the farther out in time it really is that we are looking at, right? So more and more people, as far as out as we go, we can see, okay, that's what the universe looked like, a billion years after it was created and so on, right? So, but it's a choreograph. I mean, nothing there is, it's not just randomly material flying out in air, right? If you do, fireworks on July 4th, you blow up something and things just fly everywhere. This is not like that. This is highly choreographed act, and look at that and say, how is it this organized, right? So there's an organization in nature which tells us about God. There's an organization in the way the laws of physics and laws of chemistry and biology, all of these work, which tells us about God. So each one of these things, I think, tells us something about God.